Good day. This is the Elliott Wave weekly update for the NASDAQ 100, being recorded on Saturday, November the 2nd, 2024. I'm going to start here on the cash market, the NDX, and I'm back out on that 3-year weekly chart just to give a quick review to the larger picture. The largest degree that I'm counting right now is primary, and I'm tracking a developing primary fifth wave. What's going to be in that primary fifth wave are 5 waves of intermediate degree, of which we have 1 and 2 in place, looking for the completion of intermediate wave 3, and I believe that is close. So within that intermediate third wave, we have 5 waves of minor degree, 1 through 4 complete, 4 being the August lows. So from August the 5th, we have been tracking the development of a minor fifth wave up. And within that, we should get 5 waves of minute degree, of which we have 1, 2, 3 complete, and we're in minute wave 4. That's my preferred count. It continues to suggest once complete minute 4 is complete, we should get a minute fifth wave up to new all-time highs, and that would be expected to go above 20,691 here in the cash market. Now, we did manage to get up to 20,600 last week. And while that was higher than the third wave, so I'm going to come out of my weekly, going to go down. Let's talk about what's going on inside all of this, because it starts and can be a little bit confusing. Here that 20,691 level, that was in July. Came down in August, put in the minor 4. So 20,691 is the completion point for minor wave 3. There's minor 4. 1, 2, 3. And it is, in my opinion, a diagonal in the cash, a diagonal forming for wave 5. So how far above we managed to get? You can see here the top line is 20,780-ish. That's enough. That could get there. But look where we are. We're at 20,033. I'm looking, we need to get above 20,700. That's a lot. What's going to propel it up there? All of our earnings basically are already out, except we have a few left, of course, and there are a lot of different, other than the Mag 7, that could provide us some really strong. We got Lam Research, we got other things all in there that could really give us a boost and continue to give the NASDAQ that upside potential that it needs right now. Now, what's working against it? Well, we have that election on Tuesday. That could either be a positive or a negative. That's keeping the volatility up there. We have working against it 2 very hotbeds of geopolitical activity in the world. Both involve the United States. Now, not directly, but we have Israel and Iran. Iran now saying they intend to retaliate towards Israel and its U.S. ally. So that's kind of making it interesting, right? We're being called out by name. Okay, be prepared. But they're going to launch this from Iraq versus Iran. And so that suggests that maybe they're going to start striking in Syria, where we know there are U.S. troops. What's that going to do? Is that going to draw the U.S. into a conflict with Iran by proxy? So, yet to be determined. We also have the Ukraine, where we know now, being confirmed by our own U.S. intelligence and the U.S. military, that there are North Korean troops that are now with the Russians at the Russian border with the Ukraine. What's that going to do? Now, we got NATO on one side, we got this on the other side. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and either one could flame out or either one could flame up and really put a dent in. Excuse me. So if that were to occur, do I have an alternate that would suggest something different has happened? Yes, I do. And the alternate would be is that we're placing 3. This could be the 4, and that could be the 5. Very quick, up, done. Put a 5 there and the minor 5 there, and it's a small failure. Right? But what would that then suggest? We're going to be dropping, and we're going to be dropping fast, and likely going to hit that put wall in the NDX, which, by the way, is at 18,500. But as I have been discussing in the daily updates, what's really triggering often are the cues. So let me just take a look at that cue, at the cues right now, right? Same stocks in the NDX, but here we have been up to 500. The call wall was at 500, but it got pushed up. The previous high is 503. Now, that is the level that we'd be looking for to break above, to put in that finishing touches for a minor wave 5. So in other words, this would have to suggest that ABC, that's the 4, that's the 5. Small, but still, I can draw my trend lines, and we're within the trend lines. So where are we? What are we doing now? We're doing the beginning stages of the first wave down for the start of intermediate wave 4. So we go back to the NDX, right? Minor wave 3, minor wave 4, we come back up, we're in 5. That minor wave 5, if it were to be complete here and we're starting down, what does it say? Where does this? This is so far that we're following the structure. Now, granted, we're not making that new high, which kind of would put the seal on the structure in terms of a minor 5 working to a completion point. If it's a failure, what we would be looking for? That the market is going to give it up and go down as it starts that intermediate 4th wave. Now, what is an initial target right off the top of my head for an intermediate 4th wave low? Well, as Elliott told us, that a 4th wave will find its terminus, its endpoint, within the price territory, usually towards the lower end of it, of the 4th wave of one lesser degree. Intermediate degree, one lesser is minor, and there it is, right there. So we're looking at, again, where can we find the support? 17,435, 17,000 up into this area. Numbers to be created once we know that's exactly what's happening. Then we can put in initial fib levels. But again, it would be a minor 5th wave, small failure, but the completion point for intermediate 3. And then we're starting something bigger. That's the alternate. I've repeated it before, and I'm going to say that it's still on the shelf. But we're now crunching, right? We're now getting into that crunch period where we've got an election that's going to be known. We have a Fed that's going to report. We have a hotbed in 2 areas, 2 separate countries, 2 geopolitical areas in our world. Not that far from each other, but still serious enough. And then we can't forget, don't forget that China's, quiet as they've been, are still all the way on the other side of the Pacific with their thoughts. So enough going on in that degree that whoever wins on Tuesday could be walking into a nightmare situation that needs to be dealt with immediately. So whoever wins may be put to the test on day 1 of their new administration. Okay, back to the NDX. So if I bring it down and we take a look, let's take a look at the hourly chart. And here we are, I got to move that guy over. We're in the NASDAQ. Here we are, the A, the B. The B, slight irregular. Slight irregular. So we have the A wave and the B wave moving above that high, which is fine because it's an A and that's a 3 wave up. That's the B. And now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're starting to come back down in the 5. Right? Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. What's left in terms of support? 1.618. This basically almost came up and touched 1.236, which are the fib levels that are associated with an irregular B wave, and usually happens within the 4th position. And so this would fit perfectly, that it's an irregular. And then what would the result would be, you know, of course, we get the turn and we got the C wave. So how do we measure out that C wave? Well, the C wave would then be expected to go down to 1.618. That's the fib that is associated with that type of a move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, here is where in the Qs, it was close to breaking that put wall. Not in the NDX, not in the NASDAQ, but in the Qs. So it just becomes a matter of, you know, there's been rebalancing going on in the Qs, and how can it reflect more accurately? The market can be reflected more accurately through the Qs, and that's really coming up now because we saw that the put wall was there. The market did not break it. In fact, they got close, and then they just started to buy it in the Globex and really gave us a gap up on Friday. Now, we got up to that high. They did what they needed to do, and then we started to work our way lower again. So that makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we maybe start lower. Maybe we gap lower. Maybe there'll be one of the situations that could force it even further. As I said, the outside of all of this would be that this is 3, this is the 4, and this is the 5. And what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the absolute first 5 down for the beginning stages of an intermediate fourth wave. Those are the two plans of action that I got sitting out there. My preferred remains that somehow market's going to pull it together and deal with the seasonality charts, which continue to show that we should have a dynamic end-of-year rally in the equities. So many things have to fall in place for that to happen, to be honest with you. But there it sits. Can those seasonality charts be not necessarily wrong, but blown up? And it's yes, because a seasonality chart is just taking like the last 10 years and what have we done? Well, we can go back and look at those last 10 years and determine that, like, did we have do we have a threat of a global war? Do we have a threat of 2 escalating military problems just kind of like come to a head all at the same time? No. Could that disrupt the seasonal flow? Yes. My opinion, yes. So keep it in mind. Now, personally, I'm looking for it to come down, hold into this area. What we have underneath there, I got to pull it back out. Let's go back out to the 4-hour chart and see if we have any price points. We do. We have one at above that. Then the next one down below would be 19,600. Again, if we're looking for that put wall, it's at 18,500. It's like heading this way. It's here. Back down towards the low of minute wave 2. Now, granted, if this is all going to be a diagonal, could this be the 5? It could, and it could end in a small failure, but it's still the diagonal, and this is the thrusting part up and out of or down and out of that triangle. So a couple of things, they fit for either side. If it's there, it's going to break this and keep going. That's why I got the border line, the trend lines sitting in there. If it breaks, it should keep going. It's just another signal saying, like, whoops, we're in trouble. 4-hour, 200 sits at 19,771. We might come down and give that a break and get down just below 19,700. Find the support that we need. Find the market that's going to or buyers that are going to step in and start taking it up. Because in essence, if we're going to finish 4 and we're going to go back in 5, we really need to see this strong upside action all over again. Okay, so let's go down to the NASDAQ, to the futures market, and see what we got going on over there. Again, I don't need to update any beyond, but I'll go to the daily chart so we can just take a look at where we are here. Again, minor 3, minor 4, we're looking for that minor 5th wave up. There's our marker for the intermediate 3rd wave. But again, it's going to be structure versus fib. We've already gone through, 5.618 4.618, 3.618, et cetera, all the way up. So this is as high as we're getting to 5.882. So we're up there. We do have one above that, and that's 6.618, and that's 23,000. Do we think the market can get to 23,000 under the right circumstances? Yes. Do those circumstances exist right now? No. No, they don't. It would have really had to include that we had stellar earnings across the board, particularly in AI, which is heavily weighted right now. We got one left, and that is NVIDIA, and they report on the 20th of November. God knows. That's a long wait. Now, with everything else that we got coming in between, it could be a long wait to hear from NVIDIA. And that actually, right, if this did finish it and we're going to come down to intermediate 4, and we do that between now and the 20th of November, well, we might just end up here. Don't forget that this fourth wave all took place. This is July the 11th. This is August the 5th. This high being October the 30th, and if this low happens to be November the 19th. Okay, well, it's just a matter of weeks. And again, what could really take place is like if there's a big enough shock, either from the Israel-Iran, either from the presidential election or the election cycle itself, either from, all kinds of things can kind of come in and put a sudden disruption in here that ends up getting recovered. But the disruption would be enough to really start throwing the markets and cutting into put walls, cutting into volatility triggers, cutting into where the market has now definitively moved itself into a negative gamma atmosphere. So where gamma is overall negative, and if that's the case, as it's coming and you're dropping, that negative gamma is going to put that position where they need to sell. They need to sell into the weakness. And that can avalanche on itself. And we could be right down here pretty quickly. I cannot count it out. It'd be one hell of a ride and one hell of a day trade. Woo! Could be really something. But I'm not really seeing that. I'm seeing that, yep, we come down, but it really gets fought because each time within the NASDAQ, there's been one or two stocks that are going against the grain. Like the Friday, there was some heavy duty selling, but against that grain, they were buying in different other stocks. And ones that are weighted, the ones that are a little bit heavier up there on the weight scale, so to speak. And so we'd get this chop, 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 and then down, down, chop, 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 and then down, down. That can continue. But if we're really just going to give it up and there's a reason to cut all of it, which means we have a market sell-off, we have a lot of different things that'll kind of go with it. And then you're just going to see, get out of the way. Okay, let's go a little bit further here in the NQ. Could I still think that this could be wave A of -4, wave B of -4, and here we have the C wave of -4, and then still, instead of being an intermediate, we're dropping it down. It's just the minor. I'm going to say that I'm going to put that third, right? If we're looking at alternates, my preferred suggests that we do go up and finish this minor fifth wave. My first alternate is that it is already done. And the second alternate would be that it is that minor fourth. Now, the first alternate and the second alternate are going to both point to the same area to find a low, whether it's intermediate 4 or just a continuation of the minor 4 via a C wave. Both point there. So could get real interesting. And both would then suggest a strong rally up and off of it. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. Let's go down and take a look at the hourly chart, and we can see inside this guy. And there's our marker. And there's the C and the 4. And coming inside, we got 1, 2. I'm going to say that that's the one, that's a 2. And then we're coming down into 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our 1. And we're going to come down into 5. So we actually could be, maybe done with the 3. And this is all the 4. I'm going to come back down in the 5. Now, if I had to, I could, let's just throw this up in the futures market and see what we get. There's the 1. Here's the 4. And we have 100 at 20,042 of 1.618, 19,890. 1.618 for the minuet C wave comes in at 19,814. Well, the structure itself tells us that the sub minuet wave 5 of the minuet C can find its support at 19,890. Okay, about 80, 76, 80 points above the ultimate low. Or we could go through that, hit that, and bounce. So we kind of got a couple of numbers that kind of show that we should find some more decent support down here, maybe enough to give us that boost up and out of there. Timing, of course, is everything right now, folks, because again, we have a lot of unresolved situations and we're now resting on the eve of the beginning of it all. Okay. So that's where I'm going to finish. On the moving averages within the futures market, we're going to go back out to that daily. Let's open it up. And we can see the 50 closed right below it. Closed right below it on Friday. No, opened, closed above it. Sorry. So good feeling in that maybe we do continue. And then could that suggest that this is the completion point of the 4? Maybe. Big maybe, big maybe. Otherwise, I really do expect it to come down. And we've got a couple of markers right there. Within and above, just below 19,900 and just above 19,800. So we got a 100-point buffer zone. All right, I am going to leave it right there. The next daily update will be on Monday, November the 4th.